say you want a leader, but you can't seem to make up your mind. I think you better close and let me guide you to the purple rain. Purple rain, purple rain. Purple rain, purple rain. You know what I'm saying about up here? Come on, raise your hand. Purple rain.
What's up? All right. How is everybody doing? Mr. Hale, how are you? Sean, how are you? You are co-facilitator today.
Doing fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah. So I threw up my my master's background because it's our market masters weekly market stats, be the master of your market 30-minute segment. And here we go, right? Maybe it's just the pink flowers, but it looks good. I don't know. Let's roll. So here we are, and we're going to dive into this. We always like to just kind of start off with what's the local market and what's FMLS doing. And let me kind of pop this up here on the screen. And here's the last 7 days in the FMLS. So obviously new listings kind of tapered off a little bit over the last 7 days. We've been running over 1,000 for the last 2 weeks. And, 100 listings doesn't seem like a lot, or 200 listings doesn't seem like a lot in Metro Atlanta, but it's over 10% dip for a week, which I think just might be a middle of the week or middle of the month thing. Could be a spring break thing. What do you guys think?
Yeah, both of those are options that could impact the market for sure.
Yeah. Well,
desire to market your home anyway.
Absolutely. And as we kind of get into this with more weeks and more data, Rick, you and I were talking and just kind of having a conversation of obviously the more data you have, the smarter it makes you, right? And am I breaking up or are we good?
You sound good.
Okay. I got the internet is unstable button. Anyway, the more data we get, the smarter it's going to make us around trends, and as it just kind of builds out, I think we'll be able to have much more predictability and certainly more intel as we start to collect this data as we go forward. Pending, obviously the end of the month is always the biggest closing ratio. You see that back on March 1st. But March 22nd, we had 1,560 pendings over the last 7 days, which just goes to show how hot that market's been, right? They're starting to close out almost 100 more pendings over the previous 7 days, but it's trending back up. I'm expecting this time next week, that number is going to be over 2,000 towards the end of March. What do you guys say?
Yeah, I'd agree. I mean, when pending numbers go up faster than new listings entering the market, obviously there's a potential for more imbalance.
Sure.
And you made a good point. None of this data
right?
really only has relevance when it's overlaid. I mean, it has relevance because you're inside of a 4-week window or box, but when you overlay that with prior years and prior months, then it starts to really take shape and form.
Absolutely. So obviously closings, I think will probably be way over the end of the month, last month, where we hit 2020 closings. I bet you'll be way over that a week out from now. So you'll see our traditional bell curve starting to take off. And March is going to be a big month. And I think April will be an even bigger month as we start to move forward in the real estate market. Any other thoughts? Not a lot of talking points out of this data outside of we're still in a hot market. It's a weird market because of the inventory, right? And we've known that, and that's been a topic we've talked about for a while. Sean, what are you hearing at the agent level?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a lot more of the same story. If buyers agents are feeling beat up, we're getting multiple offers, and not just like 2 or 3. We're getting double-digit offers on just about every property that comes on the market. So what I'm saying is, I saw a couple of new things this week. I'm seeing people listing properties with a document attached called seller's preferences, which lays out the details of the offer that they want to receive. And that's one of the I think part of what we look at in markets like this is what does this mean on the street? What's the conversation that we need to be having with buyers and sellers? And we'll go through in a minute. I'll screen share. There's a couple of pretty prescient graphs that Chuck Carr shares with us that I think are important to be having conversations before you getting out and putting people in your car right now. But the biggest challenge I'm seeing for my agents is getting multiple offers accepted. And the hope is that as the vaccine takes place more and more, we may see some of that listing inventory ease. And then to me, more so than anything to do with the real estate, the real estate data of listings and under contracts is watching what happens with rates. And we had some rate changes last week. And right now, 1% change in rates equals 10% buying power.
Yeah, I'm going to show here in a minute what NAR is predicting.
Yeah.
I was just sitting there listening to you thinking, okay, there were 1,560 houses that went pending over the last 7 days. If you just kind of guessed that most of those had multiple offers, how many offers were written over the last 7 days? Probably 3,000 or something, right? So there's a pent up demand that hopefully the agents don't bail and not buy. It's going to be pushed over the next couple of weeks, right? As more inventory comes on the market. But anyway, I've got these numbers in commercial. There's not a lot of story here in commercial. It's a pretty stable thing here. In the residential lease, less lease listings are on the market over the last 7 days, went down a little bit. There's a trend going over the last 3 weeks in the downward trend on lease listings. But outside of that, the pendings are pretty constant and the closings are pretty constant, which means leased properties. So 394 new on the market and 284 came off the market, which could say a different story than residential sales that says there's more available lease properties than people looking to lease them, right? Yeah. But let's dive into this. Any last thoughts on any of that, guys? All right, let's dive into this forecast. So where I got this was from National Association of Realtors website. And they put together a U.S. economy outlook once a quarter, right? And you can see across the top of here, everything in yellow is already transpired. So fourth quarter 2020 is in the history. And then everything in white is what they're predicting is going to happen going forward. So up in a week and a half, first quarter finishes. So this is what they had predicted at the beginning of February for first quarter. And GDP and consumer price index, these are important things to know, but I don't want to bring our talking point to that. I want to bring our talking point kind of down here to unemployment a little bit. You'll see right now we were sitting nationwide at about 6.8. All the economists are talking about how it's moving back to a more stable level of 6% unemployment. Again, that's the forecast, not the actual, but they believe that unemployment is going to get better. And why is that important to real estate, gentlemen?
I think it's twofold. One, it's actually people, who are generating income so that they're potentially consumers. Yeah. The other half of it is consumer confidence. When people around you are struggling or out of work, it's easy to predict yourself or visualize a circumstance or scenario that affects you in the same way or could. And so consumer confidence is a big part of knowing that qualified people, anybody qualified and capable can go get a job is a big part of that consumer confidence equation.
Yeah. So, it's one of those numbers that drives real estate, right? Having a job matters on the ability to buy real estate, but also, everybody got an economic stimulus this week. Do we think that money's going to make it into the real estate market? What do you think?
The statistics would say that most people are going to stick it in their bank and save it for a rainy day, uncertain of what happens.
Right.
Or they go frivolously buy something, which is, there's people who are creating, wealth, and there's others that are really raw consumers. And there's probably a tale of two stories going on.
Oh, I'm sure. Right. I don't know that necessarily translates to a boost in real estate. It'll translate to a boost in gross domestic product. People will spend more when they got money put in their bank account. Right.
Yeah.
But look
There's
here at
There's a guy here in Florida. I was reading a news article today that took 700 grand and went and bought a big catamaran with his stimulus money. He's under indictment just for the record.
Yeah. Nice. There's certainly a lot of people that didn't use the money for what it was intended, I'm sure. Okay, mortgage rates. So right now, the 30-year fix, they have it at 2.9%. Look what they're forecasting in interest rates. So they're forecasting it to go from 2.9 to 3.3. Not a huge jump, maybe a 0.5% in some borrowing categories. But I think we certainly will feel that in the industry on affordability. What do you think?
100%. And where we're going to see it most is in that under $500,000 market.
Right.
Because when as a general rule, the math is not 100% accurate, but a 1% raise in rates decreases buying power about 10%. If you run those numbers, it's going to be right in that percentage point. So there's people who are looking for a $300,000 house now. If rates go up, even just a 0.5 point, what they're predicting here, that buying power goes down $30,000.
Right.
That's where you see the big differences in that under 500 market. 270 to 300 is a huge difference.
Yeah. So Sean, coach me as if you were an agent for a minute. And I'm a buyer, and I'm extremely frustrated with the low inventory market. We've lost three bids at this point, and I'm contemplating just waiting a year. I'm contemplating waiting 6 months. How do you use this?
Can I share my screen with you while I do this?
Yeah.
Because this is how I would take you through. And where I think this conversation sitting down to write your first, right? Where this conversation is going to start is it's going to start in your buyer consultation. And I like to remind people about the stats that we have from Chuck Carr, because to me, these are very graphically pleasing. So, hey, Brett, I'm delighted that you've reached out. We're looking forward to helping you find a house. And before we really get started getting in the car and going out and look at properties, let's start with a conversation about the real estate market. What do you know about the real estate market and what's happening in Atlanta right now?
I hear it's hot.
It's hot, right? So what does that mean to you, hot?
I hear that I'm probably going to have to pay over asking price, which I'm a little nervous about.
Yeah. Well, let me put this in perspective for you. And by the way, this is one of the best graphs I think in here is let's start with what hot means. What most people are referring to hot right now is that it's a seller's market. Most markets are hot. Sometimes they're a buyer's market where buyers have advantages and choices and options. And sometimes it's a seller's market where there's less options available, less negotiation. And what the National Association of Realtors will tell you is that a 6 to 7 months of inventory is a balanced market, which is represented here in this yellow on this graph. And what that means is we stop listing houses based on the current absorption rate. How long does it take us to sell all of that inventory? So what you can see is right now, the red line indicating where we are in terms of inventory on the market. We're not just in the seller's market, we're in an extreme seller's market.
Right? So I was thinking of buying somewhere between 350 and 400,000.
Right. So
what does that mean to me?
Well, there's two sides to every story. The good news right now is even though it's an extreme seller's market, it's actually a unique opportunity that it's advantageous both to buy and to sell because interest rates are so low. So because interest rates are where they are today, you've got more buying power than you used to. But if you're looking to buy a house in the $300,000 to $400,000 range, let's see what's happening in that market. So median days on market and that 3 to 499 is 18 days on the market.
Wow.
Now I will tell you experientially, that actually feels really high to me. That sounds like people are just not putting things in the system. They're selling a little bit quicker than that. And where you're going to feel the impact more is just what you mentioned, having to sometimes bid more than a property. And the price range you're looking at, 46% of the properties in today's market are selling above list price. So it's not just likely, every other house you look at, we're going to be paying more than that house is listed. Now, where we may not have to do that is if we can find you property just as it comes on the market, or maybe we'll make some specific calls to find some properties for you that are not on the market. That's the best way to stay out of a multiple offer situation. But right now, sales price to list price, 46% of the properties in your price range are above market, and the days on market there are 6 days. And I think that's probably more indicative of what we're looking at in terms of trying to buy your house. So what we're going to need to do.
Should I wait?
Well, the challenge to that is if you wait, as interest rates go up, every point that interest rates goes up, your buying power goes down 10%. So now you're looking in the 3 to 350 range instead of the 350 to 400 range. So you're actually going to get more house for your money. It's just going to be a little bit more painful. So if we can, if we can work together to be prepared to write offers quickly and to write aggressive offers, what we're not going to do is probably be able to negotiate 10% off on every house.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And the top 10% sell not only in days, but really in hours. So realize if you're willing to buy something that's in the bottom half for condition and price in terms of positioning, the odds of being able to negotiate or take your time on it go up. The problem is you probably want a pristine house that's ready to go. And those are the ones that, this data is a little bit skewed because those are, always going to sell over asking price, always have double digit offers and highest demand because the amount of sweat equity. So maybe there's even a conversation around if you got the right house in the right neighborhood, but not in the right condition, maybe that's an opportunity for you to build some sweat equity relative to the current market interest rates.
Yeah. So I think when we kind of go back to this NAR forecast, and they're showing interest rates creeping up over the next, that they're saying that's second quarter 2020, which is a year out. That's what waiting a year looks like, right? And what does that do?
Well, Sean would tell you 5% less buying power.
Right.
And if you look at the appreciation estimations on here, I was looking at this earlier. It's kind of a double whammy because if waiting, not only does interest rate go up, but prices continue to climb.
Yeah.
So I would also suggest showing them a graph and just for fun. I don't know if I can illustrate it really fast, but if the current market looks like that, ask them where on the continuum of appreciation, flat, and then going down, where do they think we are, and have a real good conversation just around perception. No one really knows if we're at the peak or not, but according to NAR, it doesn't look like we're peaking yet.
Yeah. And if you
look at it historically, it's been since the first quarter of 2012, we moved into a seller's market. We're 18 months overdue for a correction.
You're exactly right. So that's where expertise. And by the way, Sean, I want to credit you with an amazing dialogue you just had. I know there's only 15 or 20 people on this Zoom, but that was golden. You asked good questions, you illustrated with data, and then you got their perspective on their motivation. And that's the key to moving forward with a buyer, is to elicit some emotional energy about, if you found the right house and maybe it takes 2 or 3 tries, it's a beautiful time to be a homeowner. There's no way around it. At 3% long-term, you almost can't fail even overpaying 10, 15%.
Well, you know what I love also, one thing Gary Keller said, and he said this years ago at either Mega Camp or Family Reunion, and it was just, sometimes those statements crystallize and resonate with you. And he made the statement, he said, you never lose money in real estate unless you have to sell when the market's down. So if you're buying a home that's your primary residence that you're planning on staying in, if you're telling me I'm going to be here 3 years, 4 years, and then I'm going to sell, you may not have quite as rosy an outlook in terms of your appreciation over it. But as long as you're buying a house that you don't intend to sell until your lifestyle dictates it, and that span's going to be anywhere over 3 to 5 years, statistics say you're going to win every time.
Yeah.
Well, and it's a form of forced savings. You're paying down the mortgage. Every single month you're getting closer to a bigger bag of money when you do decide to sell.
You're building equity, you're getting mortgage interest deduction, you're keeping more of your money. There's a lot of advantages certainly over renting a property.
Raises another good point that if you hold it long enough, it's going to pay for itself regardless. And I had another thought and I just lost it.
In addition to that, in Georgia, if you've lived in it 2 of the last 5 years, you get a capital gains exemption. Where am I getting the capital gains? Where am I not paying 30% on my profits anywhere else?
Right.
If it's a primary residence, you get a $250,000 tax exemption, $500 for a couple, right?
Yep. Oh, I know what I was going to say. What are the odds at this interest rate that your payment at some point is below or near the watermark for renting it out so that you continue to hold it as a backup investment home? So first time home buyers, man, buy the most affordable piece of real estate you can, make subtle improvements, build sweat equity, and one day make that your part of your retirement nest egg and pay the darn thing off over 20 years.
Absolutely.
So
All right.
that should be part of your conversation. It should be definitely quality of life, definitely cost of ownership, but also long-term wealth building and how real estate will impact your portfolio.
The other thing I think we need to be having conversations with buyers, and Brett, you asked the question, but I didn't address it, is so what does that mean? If your hard cap is $400,000, we're not going to go look at $485,000 houses. We need to look 375 and below, because you've got to be able to make offers of $400,000 on a house at 375.
Yep. Perfect. So where does NAR think we're going? If you look at home sales, obviously this is quarter over quarter. So first quarter, they're expecting us to finish first quarter almost 20% over a year ago. Are you feeling that? I think we're all feeling that. The volume is coming. Look at second quarter. Now don't get too excited. This is 50% over second quarter 2020. We all know what happened second quarter 2020. But look what they're predicting third quarter, fourth quarter, first and second quarter next year. Not as big of a movement, and they're actually predicting it to slow down quite a bit compared to 2020. But here's the thing. That's not bad news, because 2020 was great sales in third and fourth quarter, right? So if we go backwards 1%, it still is great volume of sales for real estate in the industry, right?
It's
But
the first time we've seen
it's going to slow down from what we're feeling right now, I think.
it's the first time we've seen a major anomaly in the sales cycle curve since 2012, when we had the tax credits. And that year we stole all of our buyers from the fall, and they all closed before April 1st to get that $6,000 tax credit. We saw those numbers move. And same thing right in these graphs is this is the first time, if you look at this red graph, there's your sales cycle right there.
Yeah.
So I would expect we're 50% more than this section right here. And to be down 1 or 2% from the fall, look what happened. We stole all our buyers from the spring and just moved them to the fall. And we're still kind of coming on we still got the tailwinds of that coming back right now. So to see it down a little bit in the first quarter, you have to put it in perspective that's just year over year, not over average, right?
Yeah, correct. One of the things that I think is going to be interesting to watch is new construction. And what we're hearing in new construction is there's a demand for it. The builders want to build it, but there's a problem with cost in the builder margin because of the price of lumber and the construction costs, right? But they're actually expecting new construction to be a little bit stronger than existing home sales in the future, which says that they believe that there's going to be builders that are building new product out there. Any thoughts on that?
Land prices are really high. If you don't own the land already as a builder, it's really difficult to make money, especially in the affordable housing sector. The other piece of it is the cost to build today has escalated just significantly. I'm doing a renovation and I want high-end appliances. They're telling me they're 3 to 4 months minimum from delivery.
Yeah.
These are just appliances.
Everything in new construction. I think multifamily is going to be an interesting play in the future, right? But needless to say, if you're looking at medium home prices, existing home prices in comparison to new home prices, I looked across the board, and I'm going to just throw an average of about $30,000 more expensive of a median home price on new construction than existing homes. And I think that that's an interesting number. It's about a 10% more expensive to buy an equal house in existing versus new construction, which that conversation goes both ways. If I'm helping somebody sell a new construction home in a neighborhood that is still being new construction, there's about a 10% number that I need to set an expectation around. Or if I'm working with buyers, it's something I can educate them around existing versus new and the cost difference, right? It's just there it is backed up in data is what I'm saying. So needless to say, numbers are numbers, but the question is how do we educate ourselves around these and turn it into dialogue with our buyers and sellers that make us where's my little master's flag? The masters of our neighborhoods, the masters of the economy, that we're that economist of choice, right?
You got it.
So Sean, we have 5 minutes. Was there something else you were going to share around Decatur and your market, or were you just going to?
Yeah, I really wanted to kind of focus on some of the dialogue with buyers and sellers around those grass. There's not a whole lot of stories to change in Decatur, but I think where I would focus without extreme change in any statistics kind of week to week right now, the things I would look at, I would pay attention to the forbearance and see, that's kind of that inventory. We've also got a number of tenants who are not making payments, and we may start seeing some investors who get frustrated having to carry that note, or starting to look at, what are some of the dynamics that could bring some inventory back into the picture for us. And then, obviously in town, a lot of the construction has changed. It's not all just single lot infill anymore. You're seeing a lot more, like you said, of the multi-family, the mixed use, the house pads, the different ways to do it. I've seen a couple of builders talk about starting to do modular homes because you can get the product shipped. You're not waiting, you're not holding up construction because one particular type of lumber is out, and you can build them a little bit quicker and a little bit less expensive. And so I think that's an area that I would start educating myself on. But I don't see any huge statistical changes coming down the pipeline in the next 30, 60 days.
Perfect. I think second quarter, we're going to get a little reprieve in inventory. It feels like the inventory is going to come up a little bit in second quarter, and by third and fourth quarter, I think the consumer is going to be in shock of all the previous 6 months and the stories they heard, and they're not going to experience those same stories come third and fourth quarter this year. But that's where our agents have to be on top of these numbers so that they can really give the right advice and opinion to the consumers as they navigate through this. I would say it's a pretty Wild West ride going on in real estate right now. And this is why this is such an important conversation right now.
Yeah. But there's always truth in numbers.
Always.
And numbers can do the heavy lifting for you in difficult conversations around pricing with buyers and sellers.
There you go.
Well, there's lots to be grateful for as a real estate agent today. Last year could have easily been a complete bust. And when you look at the data, Sean, you nailed it. We basically deferred that volume to third and fourth quarters, or early summer. And but the net is that we landed right where we above the trend line for the entire year over year, 3 consecutive years. And so there's no promises, but my advice is make hay while the sun shines and go fight for your unfair share and have as many conversations every day as you can with potential buyers and sellers.
Absolutely. Any parting thoughts, gentlemen?
That was mine.
Great day to sell a house.
All right.
Every day is a great day to sell a house.
Always. Gentlemen, thanks for Monday Market Stats. Hope everybody got some value. See you next week.
Good job, Sean. Thanks, Brett. Awesome.
Thank you, guys.